Yo.
It's a very Corey Christmas. The Hamester really did it all, didn't he? I mean, early on we saw his dramatic chops and stuff like Lucas, and later in the underrated Without Malice. And we saw his comedic timing and stuff like License to Drive, Dream a Little Dream, his late night horror stuff, you know, with Watchers and Fever Lake, and even kind of like period films with Oh What a Night in Life 101, and I guess like fantasy stuff with his one-off in that weird Merlin movie, but more on that some other time. But one genre Hamster excelled at, and it, you know, cannot be overlooked, was that sweet spot in the 90s when the powers that be, they really tried to make Corey Haim a bona fide teen action star.
Freeze, everybody!
Always be at the right place at the right time.
This is a real bank robbery, trust me!
Never sweat under pressure. We're surrounded.
It was clear that Hamster could carry his own weight in the arena after, you know, the Lost Boys and whatnot. And it wasn't long until the Hamster was cast in the lead in his very own futuristic actioner, Prayer of the Roller Boys. Absolutely a legendary film. Let me know if I should talk about that one this year. Everyone, though, was convinced after Roller Boys that Hamster had a real shot at being an action star. And this was the perfect time, man. The early 90s, I mean, in my opinion, action movies never got any better than that. You know, we were privy to the birth of legitimate action stars. Stars like Don the Dragon Wilson, Chad McQueen, Don Swayze, Lorenzo Lamas, Cynthia Rothrock, and that's just naming a few. Billy Blanks. And in my opinion, we can add Corey Haim to that list, as, you know, his output for the next few years would be largely in that genre. As right after Roller Boys, we saw other action-oriented films from Hamster like Fast Getaway, Blown Away, Double O Kid, and even Fast Getaway 2. And later on, of course, with the Demolition films, both of which I've already reviewed, check them out. And of course, those were also like the video store days of the fellas. Roller Boys did get a theatrical release. A lot of these movies got a limited release in some way or another, but it didn't quite do the numbers that they had hoped, Roller Boys, you know. And then Fast Getaway got kind of like some bum test screenings and whatnot, which is a bummer, man, because it had one of the coolest marketing schemes, and the posters look great. I mean, and look at this trailer, it had one of the best trailers of all time. And Fast Getaway just has a legitimate look and feel to it. As a large scale. It feels like a theatrically released movie. It honestly does. And I think it would have done all right. Oh, and that kick-ass song in the intro, which was adopted as the theme for the Two Corys Forever podcast. Check that out. Well, that tune was sang by none other than Lost Boy Brooke McCarter, who had quite the relationship with Corey Haim in those days. More on that in a bit. And all these things combined, they already make for a remarkable early 90s action flick. But even more so when you add the likes of Leo Rossi and the legendary Cynthia Rothrock. And whoever thought of pairing up Hamster and Rothrock, goddamn genius. By this point, Rothrock had been kicking ass for years, but in a lot of ways, the 90s solidified her not only as a legitimate martial artist, but also as one heck of an action star, headlining her own films like the China O'Brien and Martial Law series, as well as Lady Dragon, just to name a few. But with Fast Getaway, she saw an avenue to do a film not so heavily doused in martial arts, and was among the first to be cast, which totally worked. I mean, she works perfect as part of this bank robbing team, portraying the no-nonsense Lily, the soon-to-be estranged girlfriend of Leo Rossi's character Sam Potter. And when Lily gets wind that the team is planning to leave her in the dust, well, she retaliates in the most Rothrock way and essentially becomes the film's villain, which leads to a wacky and fun time, making for a pretty decent father-son action bank heist comedy that I feel works better as a more lighthearted action flick than a straight comedy, if I'm being honest. I mean, humor is there, but it's not really a laugh riot or anything. They really go for it, though. I mean, Corey Haim even dresses up in drag for the first time, which doesn't really make me laugh so much as it makes me feel kind of funny deep inside. Anyway, it's still a pretty fun, stylish flick either way. And the chemistry between Rossi and Haim is undeniable. Fast Getaway was produced smack dab in the Cinetel glory days, both Haim and Rossi apparently having contracts with the company, as Haim would go on to work for them with stuff like Dream a Little Dream 2, and Rossi would largely take over the Relentless series of films in those sequels. Oh, and Rossi would even have a cameo in Dream a Little Dream 2. When it comes to 90s cheese fests, I really feel like Cinetel is always left out of the conversation. And if we're talking being left out of the conversation, the same can be said about the film's director, Spiro Razatos, a literal cinematic legend. Trust me, even if you never heard of this guy before, you've most definitely seen his work. Razatos cut his teeth with stunt work in the early days and has since become a highly sought-out action director, working on huge franchises and films, not only with work with the MCU, but doing stuff for the Fast and Furious franchise, Kong, Ninja Turtles, Bad Boys, and that's just naming a few of the films he did stunts and second unit directing on, which is where Razatos shines. And even though he only directed a handful of films, one of them being the underrated Class of 1999 Part 2, Fast Getaway was his big debut. And of course, Spiro Razatos being a big stunt guy, well, he just had to outdo himself here in Fast Getaway with one hell of a stunt. I mean, this thing gets me every time. The movie does hold up great and looks and feels like a theatrical production for a lot of reasons, this stunt being a big one of those. In fact, the only place I feel the film lacks is the missing love interest for the Hamster. He doesn't really have one here, you know, and he's always teamed up with a top-notch female when he isn't alongside Feldog. I think Fast Getaway could have used like a Lala Sloatman or even a Nicole Eggert or something. But hey, at least we get Cynthia Rothrock. But all that said, I can praise the film forever, but that doesn't change that it didn't really fare well at the box office. Even though the film was pre-planned to make its budget back via video store shelves, there was still kind of a planned theatrical release, like they wanted to put it in theaters, even after a few test screening duds. This is actually when that famous trailer I was talking about came into play. It was kind of a last-ditch effort to market the film to a young audience, having Corey Haim kind of narrate the trailer directly to us, you know? And he even went on the road a bit to promote the film. All to no avail.
Always leave yourself plenty of room for a fast getaway.
And while the film did do good business on video and cable, it was not the return to form Haim was hoping for at the time. Although I do feel everyone came out unscathed. It is a shame, though. Everyone is really giving it their all, and the film does have its own little look and feel that I wish translated with the sequel. I mean, we get a legit theme song here, again, sung by Brooke McCarter. McCarter and Haim, of course, they met on the set of The Lost Boys and would stay friends throughout their lives. McCarter was there to help mentor Haim when Haim would relapse, and the two would even live together, you know, and then make some songs together, apparently, although I've never heard a full one of those. But I must say, the duo's masterpiece is Corey Haim's video diary, Me, Myself, and I, which was directed by Brooke McCarter. McCarter stated later that he had to take some space from Corey Haim after a while, as he was just kind of, getting too far on at that point. But the two remained amicable in the end when Haim cleaned himself up. Rest in peace to both Brooke McCarter and Corey Haim. Legends.
Is a stick-up.
A sequel to Fast Getaway would be released 3 years later. A sequel that, well, frankly got a lot wrong. Like, the film sidelines Leo Rossi, what the hell? And they don't really lean into any extravagant stunts, like there's not a big stunt there. But Fast Getaway 2 also got some things right, like bringing Cynthia Rothrock back and teaming up Haim with a 90s starlet and bombshell Sarah Buxton. Sarah Buxton, of course, making her 2 Corey's rounds as she previously dazzled in Rock and Roll High School forever. But more on Fast Getaway 2 later this month. Thanks for watching, Staunch Gang. We are just getting started with a very Corey Christmas. And don't worry, folks, we will be returning later this month to touch on the smash hit sequel, Fast Getaway 2. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe. Please subscribe, seriously. And follow me on Instagram at staunch_TV. Get your Christmas ornament too, by the way. There's still some left. Find out how to get your official Staunch TV Christmas ornament down in the description. See you guys soon.